Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Star Trek Discovery panel for Outfest OutFronts. We're really excited to have this group together, and I think we will be delighted to hear some of their stories because I have just spent some painstaking moments coming up with just fantastic questions that hopefully we haven't discussed before. Now, just for those of you that might be tuning in for the first time, the Outfest OutFronts is in its inaugural year. And for many of those of you that do not know Outfest has been around for nearly 40 years and helping to support and build empathy through LGBTQIA+ stories across multiple mediums. Of course, independent film is where we began, but as we have discovered, especially during the pandemic, that there are many forms of mediums and entertainment that both young people and old are enjoying throughout the pandemic and just in general. And so while we were thinking through, how do we continue to evolve, this was an area in which we really wanted to explore. For those of you also that know Outfest, you will know that we have many other programs, including a transacting fellowship, our legacy project with UCLA around film restoration and archiving, as well as our Outfest Forward programs. So make sure to tune in. But before we get to that, let's dive in. So I want to welcome everybody from Star Trek Discovery that has been able to join us today. And as we jump in, I thought a roll call would be appropriate. So I'm going to call on each of you. And if you could give, of course, your pronouns, your role, your history kind of with the project, and we'll dive in from there. So I will begin. I am Damien Navarro, the Executive Director of Outfest. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And Michelle, perhaps you can get us started.
Sure. Hi, Michelle Paradise. She, her pronouns. I am the co-showrunner and one of the executive producers of Star Trek Discovery. I joined halfway through season 2 and started co-showrunning with Alex in season 3.
Great to meet you. Anthony?
I'm Anthony Rapp. My pronouns are he, him, and I've been in the show since season 1, and I have the pleasure of playing Lieutenant Commander. No, now Commander. Sorry, is that spoiler? When did it happen? Time. It's Paul Stamets.
It's okay, Admiral.
Sure. And I have the pleasure of being the first known openly gay character in the history of the Star Trek TV, many different series. And I have the pleasure of antagonizing Tig Notaro when she's in the show and playing the partner of Wilson and the sort of adoptive parent of Ian and Blue's characters.
It was great to meet you, and thank you for joining us. Blue?
I'm Blue, they, them pronouns, and I play Adira. I joined in season 3, and I'm still here, so that's good. I think I'm playing the first known trans non-binary character on the show, so that's awesome. And who are my dads, and Tig is who I want to grow up to be. So that's fun.
I think Tig is what we all want to grow up to be, let's just be honest,
Anthony, yes. Anthony, yes.
Own it, Anthony, own it. Ian?
Hi, I'm Ian Alexander. I play Gray Tall. My pronouns are they, them, and he, him interchangeably. So both they, them, and he, him are correct. I have been on the shows for, I've been on Star Trek Discovery for seasons 3 and 4.
Great to see you. Tig?
I'm Tig Notaro. I play Commander Jet Reno. And my pronouns are she, her. And I am an old friend of Alex Kurtzman's, so that's how I ended up on the show.
That's the only reason.
It truly is. There's no way this would have happened otherwise. I'm also still here, Blue, and it's a real mystery how that has how that's happened. Am I forgetting something?
Oh, that's great. And Wilson, how are you?
I'm good. I'm well. I'm Wilson Cruz. I use he, him, his pronouns. I play Dr. Hugh Culber. And I have been with the show since season 1 precariously. and then more solidly starting in season 2. And I play, I have the great honor of playing the partner of Paul Stamets. And I've also taken on a role as counselor on the ship this past season, which has been really satisfying on so many levels. And Paul and Hugh have created a chosen family this season. So it's been interesting to be a daddy all of a sudden.
I've been a daddy since 1975. So
own it.
Welcome.
Yes.
Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is again one of the most exciting panels that I saw come through for OutFronts, and Wilson and I got an opportunity to spend a little bit of time at Sundance before the end of the world started, and I remember one of the things we mentioned, and
literally
we were talking about
literally right before.
Literally just before. It was like one of those things that you were in the bar and you saw on the TV, like, oh, this like invasion of like Independence Day was coming. You're like, what is that thing? And then it was here. But one of the things that we talked a lot about was how enamored I was with this particular group, and obviously this show. And Wilson was, who we all know has spent a better part of his life of giving back in really unique ways to incredible organizations, and was like, I will get them all together. I promise. I ask. They're getting sick of me asking, but I'm going to keep asking, and then it'll happen. So here we go. Let's get it done. So before, just to kind of set the tone, science fiction, for many of us that are huge science fiction heads and love that particular medium, there is an incredible imagining of shaping the impossible, and really something that guides our world too. And Star Trek, of course, has done that from day one. And I remember, going back and even watching old episodes of the various shows and films of this kind of utopian in some ways, especially for many of us that were part of this underrepresented group, whether it was because of gender or race or sexuality. And so, with Star Trek Discovery, it is finally to see something so purposefully and intentional, and really laying the groundwork for a history of first, in which I know from many of your quotes, what it's been like to not be the focus, but just being able to meld into of what we've been wishing for, that we weren't the ones that just necessarily had HIV, we weren't the ones that were emaciated at the end of it, we weren't the ones that were the couple that didn't work out. Like, there's just so many firsts that I don't think, unless you are from our community, that we really understand. So I really want to dive in a little bit about how that has been manifested and where you're seeing that as things progress, and what it is like to be a part of that. That we have the first female captain of color, we have first trans role, first non-binary. I don't know if you've ever seen so many Broadway stars in a science fiction show before, but that's got to be something. I will be waiting for the musical number breakout. I'm sure it's been discussed. Michelle, if you can make that happen, that'd be awesome.
You've never heard that before.
I've never pitched that before.
I mean, all the shows are doing it, right? It's the final episode. You can think outside the box as you move forward.
Anthony, of course, will be muted through that musical.
Who's dubbing you is really what we'll get to. I always want to pick, my favorite. So Brian Fuller was quoted, of course, about this intention behind color and gender and sexuality blindness of the show. Michelle, can we start? Like, how is that vision being implemented? What are kind of the very purposeful or personal ways that you've either been a part of that or seen that as you've come on board?
Well, it's every season. We're incredibly intentional about all of that. I mean, some of these things were set into motion before I came onto the show. But at the start of season 3, when I started running it with Alex, one of the first things we did was have a discussion about, okay, who do we have on the show right now? Who do we want to have? What kind of representation do we want to have? What sorts of characters do we want to add? And that led very quickly to the discussion of the characters that Blue and Ian now play. And I think it's hugely important to tell these stories and to be intentional about them. One of the things that we do, and we do this for all of our characters, but I think it's especially important for underrepresented characters on television. At the start of every season, we talk about each of these characters. And in addition to talking about, of course, the big themes of the season, the big storylines, who's our big bad, all of those sorts of things, we talk about each of these characters individually and who are they? Where did they end last season? Or in the case of Blue and Ian, where are they starting? And then where do we want to begin them this season? Where do we want them to end so that we can take them on a fulfilling journey? And I think being intentional about that means that then these characters and these storylines get the screen time they deserve. And it's tricky. We have a big cast. There's only so much page count you can do. Like, we can't do all the things that we would always like to do, but we can be very intentional and purposeful about that. And we are at the start of every season. We are as we come into every single episode. And we want to make sure that every scene, every storyline, every moment matters, because what these folks do, they embody these characters, and people watch them and they see their faces, and it brings them hope. And it brings them a feeling of, that could be me. I can see myself on screen for the very first time. And I feel a huge responsibility, and I know Alex does and all the writers do, to really honor that and be as thoughtful as we can about all of that.
I will say that as an audience member, there's a certain familiarity that you feel like I'm not only seeing myself represented, I'm seeing my community represented in a really unique way from the cast. And feel free to jump in. What has it been like, both on set and then also reflecting back on what we're seeing with your storylines, to also go through that moment where it's like we were so used to being like the only, whether it was in an outcast member early on in our careers or whether it was something that we saw. What has it been like to see this kind of amalgamation come together?
I'm really thrilled. I was thrilled when it started to happen, when Adira appeared. And then I like to not know what's coming. So I didn't know necessarily that Adira we would wind up so bonded. So that was like a wonderful surprise, but it makes a lot of sense. And none of it ever felt forced. It felt very organic. And I think that's so much of what people are responding to as well, is that it's not like, you don't feel like wheels turning and like, the machinery moving it. It feels like the characters are moving. So it feels very, very earned in a really great way that makes it land for people so powerfully. And one of the greatest things, it's all anecdotal, but on Twitter, where I mainly see like fan interaction, so many straight allies are fully on board and embracing and moved and sharing their perspectives and stories, and talk about how much it's making them understand things. Specifically the scene where Adira comes out as non-binary, which was handled so simply. People responded so strongly to that. Both people who were themselves non-binary and their loved ones, or people who didn't even know someone. It's just really made a difference.
I think, to piggyback on Anthony, I can remember very vividly being the only member of the LGBTQ community on a set, or at least the only one who was open about it. And that could be a really lonely place when you are navigating new terrain as an actor, right? And how you interact with your fellow cast members and crew, and helping people understand your specific needs. And so to now be a daddy to two young people who are changing the industry in their own right, I get to learn how to be a better ally and let them take the lead. And so, 25 years later, I get to learn new skills and let them lead us instead. So I'm curious to hear if they have anything to say about their experiences with the show.
I was gonna say vice versa to that, in the same way that, like you said, that like we teach you things. It's incredible to have both of you with us so much of the time, because it's like that's a massive blessing as well, with all of the work that you've done throughout your lives, with your job, with your community, with everything that you've done. To have you guys as mentors is like unreal.
It's almost like we're a family.
Oh, there really is this like overwhelming feeling of love that I have for all of you. And I think that that feeling of love really does translate so well. Our chemistry on screen is so apparent because you can tell that, you know, the bantering on and off screen happens. I think that like for trans youth like myself, it is so wonderful and really rare to find a chosen family that is so supportive and uplifting. And I think a lot of trans youth, you know, see Gray, my character, on screen, and it's the first time they're seeing someone who looks like them or someone who looks like Blue's character, Adira, and they can see themselves reflected on screen. And that's truly so beautiful, especially all of the attacks against trans youth that our, you know, government is battling against right now in, you know, healthcare and lawmaking for, you know, kids sports teams and stuff like that. It really, really does help me and so many others like me to have that representation. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it.
I think gender has just played an incredible role in ways in which I think even, you know, my generation of our community has struggled with, you know, and I remember my first weekend as Outfest ED out at the festival in 2019 and hearing a very one-sided debate about even pronouns and how those were being leveraged and what did those mean for people. So I feel like what I love about what Wilson said is this kind of mutual learning from both sides and this kind of multi-generational learning, which is so integral and reflective of what we hope starts to happen on crews and sets and in studios all over, is kind of this Comic-Con safety of community, that I always say you can walk in and be anything, and you're immediately accepted. And so I think, you know, we've been waiting for a long time, for a world to be created for us that we would feel, and I don't feel it ever came. And so I really, and I'll get emotional saying it, but I love that we're creating the worlds, and allies, you can come and play, because we get shit done and we create beautiful storylines that are meaningful and build empathy for all sorts. You know, Tig, obviously.
I just wanted to just piggyback real quick and just say, you know, the creation of the atmosphere where those conversations can happen is also really important. You know, we don't take for granted that we have showrunners and a studio that are supporting these conversations and this representation. So we're incredibly grateful for that. Anyways, as you were.
No, I appreciate that caveat too, because I think it is so important. I mean, the word intentional can't be overused enough.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen, is my point, right? It's through concern.
Yeah, I feel like they just think that, like, you know, you're going to throw us all in a bar and we're all going to get along. And I can tell you that, you know, I was at Lesbian Weekend in P-Town one weekend, and I did not know how to play football. and I quickly realized, I was like, I'm just going to wait over here and watch and observe. So take in obviously you've been a part of an industry, whether it's been in comedy and have done and normalized so many different conversations around whether it's healthcare, whether it is you know, performance, in areas in which I feel like what do you feel like you came into when you saw this, and what was it, how different was it, or how similar was it with maybe some of the environments that you've been in before?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of piggybacking talk here, and so I'll go ahead and piggyback the piggybacking. But it, I mean, I guess I have felt like, you know, in the comedy world, there's obviously and has been a gay community within the comedy world, but I felt like there were different moments in my career that I was moved out into more of a mainstream world, and I felt like whether it was stand up or appearing on different TV shows, that I was the gay character that was being presented in a situation or in a festival or something like that. Whereas coming into this world, it almost seems odd to stumble upon a straight character. It's like, what are you doing in space?
This is our area.
That's weird. What, are you straight or are you an alien? I don't understand what. So yeah, it's kind of that, I guess, comfort or security that you can take for granted for a moment because it yeah, it's just it's but it's a comfort that you're not necessarily used to. But then once you're in it, you're like, oh, right, this is what are you nodding about, Wilson?
Yeah, like this is the way it should be.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And
So,
we've been, convinced otherwise. And suddenly the veil has been lifted, everything's in Technicolor. Like, oh, this is far more interesting and fun. Let's have this all the time.
yeah, and people seem very interested and open to watching these types of stories and learning about these types of people. So it's been very nice to be a part of, except for Anthony, of course.
Yeah, it happens, Picturing like sibling rivalry, and what I really want to hear after hearing piggybacking is that game with the can with the two pigs that you'd throw out, and if they landed on each, never mind. We're gonna go.
Yeah.
Gonna go.
Oh, I have played that game before. Yeah.
See, piggybacking on the piggybacking.
Never say that word again. I will never say that.
I want to see Tig play football, but that's another conversation.
Get in line.
It's been seen before, I'm sure somewhere. Michelle, in cast, like it sounds like there's also a really unique relationship between, especially when dealing with storylines that are, I don't want to say the first because they've been happening to us our entire lives, but they're first represented, whether it is in relationship conflict or relationship development or love, or polyamory relationships, who knows? Like what is the back and forth? Are there any specific moments that the writing teams and the producing team thought it was going to go this way and either received feedback or from a cast member or from something that influenced a different direction? Is there ever, how does that work? How does that dynamic work?
Yeah, how does that work?
Wilson tells us what to do and then we just do that. So.
If only.
Well, I mentioned earlier, we normally, as a writer's room, we talk in the beginning of the season about what we're thinking in terms of the characters and their arcs. I think maybe what you're getting at is, especially I think in the introduction of new characters, and especially the importance of Adira and Gray, when those characters were coming on in season 3, it felt really important to have some conversations with Blu and Ian directly about their characters. And Blu can speak more to where they were at the time, and they have, but just to make sure that both of their characters were established in a way that felt right to each of them as actors, as human beings in the world, and to make sure that we were taking those characters in the right way. And then we get feedback from them for those 2 stories in particular. We've also talked in the past about how we worked very closely with Nick from GLAAD, Nick Adams, in terms of developing both of those characters and the storylines, and making sure that we were being, again, the word intentional about the way those storylines played out, about the moments along the way. With Nick in particular, we made sure that he read those scripts, that he saw the cuts of the episodes. He had some specific feedback that he shared that was super helpful along the way. And then, with respect to some of the things, speaking with Blu or Ian directly about, Anthony mentioned that particular scene between Adira and Stamets in episode 8, talking to Blu about that ahead of time and making sure that was something that they were comfortable with. I think those kinds of things are hugely important when, especially in the early days of a character. And then, as we go on and continue to develop these things, if someone had big concerns or whatever, I'm sure they would tell us. But every word is just golden. Every storyline is just amazing. And
Yeah.
and the minute Wilson approves those, we
Yes.
know that we're set. So
Yes.
then we're just off to the races.
Yes.
She's being really nice, but I have been known to pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, can we talk about this?"
Which is awesome. And you know, I mean, I think it's you know, again, these our actors, all of our actors, and these folks in particular, they're incredible, and they're so thoughtful about their characters, their arcs, what they're doing in these moments, and you know, we're always open. I'm always open. My phone is always right here.
So I can call and say, what
Yeah.
is this that you've written?
Yes.
I
yes.
didn't realize that that was an option, because I would have done that
It's
previously.
well, now you know. It's for everyone but Anthony, though. So he's the only one that is not. Yeah, his goes straight to voicemail. Anytime.
But I leave 4-minute long messages.
This is onboarding for all future cast, and like this is how it works. So everybody can go back, and we're recording, so you can watch
Awesome.
this. And this is how the whole ecosystem comes together. So open question: what do we believe are some of the common tropes that Discovery has kind of broken down? You know, what are some things that perhaps I always say that those gearing up for a cringeworthy moment that you believe, like whether you're something a specific storyline or something your character kind of approach that's different than perhaps what we have either seen before or that you would have thought.
Well, I'm just not sure that we've seen that many queer characters be so like repeatedly heroic in the ways in which our characters are heroic. Like that being centered and being part of the solution to literally saving the universe, that alone, it's not necessarily that it was a trope otherwise, but it just didn't really exist to my mind. So that alone is a huge new thing, I think.
And absolutely, I think that is absolutely true, that we get to be the heroes of our own stories, right? That we see LGBTQ people as part of the solution, right? But I will say that we did a pretty great job of burying your gays trope. I think we put a nice big marker on it. Gone. Don't do that anymore. And I'm really proud of that. And I love how detailed it was, and how we used it to tell the story about resilience and about this person who can rebuild from a trauma by reaching out, right? And that love is what saves you. So I think that was a good one too.
Our characters do undergo a lot of trauma, and we do very heroically overcome it. But it does like have that chosen family trope, which is a positive one. I do think that the chosen family that, you know, Wilson and Anthony and Blue and I's characters and Tig's character, along with so many other on, you know, the bridge crew and the cast of Star Trek Discovery, it feels like a community. And I think one trope that I really was afraid of happening, but that we avoided, and I know that Michelle probably had a lot of talks with Nick Adams from GLAAD about this, is the dead trans character trope. Oftentimes trans characters are killed off, or, you know, they commit suicide, and so it can be a very triggering and very sort of depressing narrative of like, oh, if you're trans, your life is going to be miserable and you're going to suffer. And so with my character, I know that I was concerned when I read the script and saw that Gray dies like minutes into being introduced, but I really, really did like how, you know, it became sort of this bonding moment between him and Adira, and Adira's love for Gray is so strong that they're able to save him. And you know, Gray is able to live on in his own way, and they both really help each other through this sort of difficult time.
And stay tuned for season 4.
Yeah, I can't say too much without spoiling anything, so that's why I gave a very vague answer.
Well, we know how Trekkies work. We're gonna dissect every single second, you know, like when like a new trailer coming out and be like, and then this was said. I think it was, you know, yes, it's our own fascination with it. Well, speaking of like moving forward, I mean, again, mental health, overcoming traumas, relationship development. I mean, again, tackling things that we all deal with every day, all the time, with other people we know or ourselves. As we move into season 4, and as we move into an entirely new, I lose my Trekkie status because I don't remember how far ahead we've gone. But what are some of the things that we can expect without giving away specific storylines around relationships, around dealing with sexuality, gender, race, and all of those areas that are very of the now, as we continue to take on the responsibility that science fiction can have of helping us to pave a better way forward? Are there any teasers?
I don't know if this necessarily applies to sexuality per se, but parenting, like, they're not children, but they're young people. But the pressures of how to be available to be a mentor or guide or parent in the face of job responsibilities and sort of crises. That's an interesting sort of sub thread through the season a bit. That is unusual again, and I don't know that too many queer families that we've seen that explored too much. So that's one little thing that I can think of. There's more the ways in which Paul and Hugh continue to evolve in their relationship is certainly explored also in the season. I don't think that gets anything away, right, Michelle?
No. And we did, just to jump off of what Ian was just saying, we did,
Michelle.
I will piggyback if I can. Piggy. I don't know how many piggies we've gone through right now, but I will do that many piggies off of Ian now. We do have Culber does make a promise in our season 3 finale to Gray that you will be seen, you will be truly seen. And we absolutely do pay that off in season 4. So it's very much going the opposite direction of the trope that they mentioned. So we can say that we do that, and that's not, I mean, I don't know if it's a little spoilery. I think we've said that before. If not, then I've just spoiled.
You're going to fire yourself.
I'm going to fire myself. It's been nice working with all of you. Thanks. I think I did say that before, but if I hadn't said it before, I would say it now because that's hugely important. It's that storyline and making sure that we pay that off is hugely important. And then, I think, our trailer has been released. Our heroes are going to have some challenges this coming season and some things that they need to deal with. And I think it'll be an interesting season for all of them in terms of challenging them as individuals, challenging their relationships with one another and how those relationships can grow. And I have to say, it's really fun watching these folks bring these stories to life. We're eyeball deep in editing right now, and it's just, it's an absolute treat.
Thank you.
It's mostly, I mean, everyone, mostly Tig. It's been mostly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have to include us because we're here, but we know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel
You're
like
talking about the one who hasn't even filmed their their season yet.
But we're excited to see you do it.
Not a single episode. It's all going to be crammed in 2 weeks.
Tig,
I feel sorry for the directors. Go ahead.
Tig, is this just a thing that you're starting to just record all of your projects separate? Like,
yes. My whole career has been me being placed in or cut out very quickly.
You were cut in very well, though, I will say, on the 3 nights that we watched this amazing zombie project. So thank you for providing us our entertainment. As a lot of this is there's been so much pressure, as we know, for queer and trans and non-binary characters to play, like the actual people to play those roles. And I think that is something that, really this is a beacon because it is representative. We hear so much flack and crap from the industry that, there's not that great a pool of people, and, there's just not, we don't see them regularly available. And I think what this particular show has done is called bullshit on that and said, it may take a little bit more time and energy, but look at what you get back and look what you give not only to the community, but to the world. Has there been any particular feedback or fan gift or message or story that any of you have heard that just demonstrates how important, as we're sharing this with the world, why this is so important and meaningful to do more of this, to inspire more of this?
Oh, a huge one for me is I haven't met any fans in person yet because of the pandemic and everything, but I've gotten a lot of messages, not only from trans and non-binary kids, but some from parents, which was like the most mind-blowing thing for me to receive messages from parents who are like, I'm cis, but my kid just came out to me, and we watched the show and we watched these characters, and we like just want to say thank you for that, and you know, making something that we're able to see and show them and show ourselves, and like just really insane to me, like multiple parents just messaging me these things, and I was like, I don't, that's so much emotion, thank you. I don't know. It's really crazy, but it's those are a huge one for me, seeing parents of these kids talk openly about it.
I chat with a few fans similarly to Blue online because of the pandemic, and one thing that was really, really touching is that a fan hand painted these custom Adira and Gray Funko Pops, you know, the little big bobblehead characters. They like custom painted it because they're like, they don't sell these, but these characters are so important to me that I will make my own. And like, I was like, the level of dedication, like the skill, like the artistry. Okay. Like I was so touched by that.
The fan art is amazing. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, it was just a joke. I hand painted my own Jet Reno Funko Pop, but then I burned it. I set it on fire and melted it, but that's it.
Can we unmute Anthony and hear what he's saying? No? Okay.
Yes. You're welcome.
I will say, you know, there was a conversation that happened on Twitter a while back where there was a talk about someone started a conversation about the fact that they didn't even need to know that Anthony and I were playing gay characters who were in love. They just saw it in the way that we looked at each other, right? That it was, they didn't need any more than that, right? And didn't need it to be spoken, and that there was something that came from the way we interacted with each other that felt authentic to gay male relationships. And I thought, you know, that's one of the things you don't get when you hire two straight men to play these roles, right? Because they're so busy trying to find, you know, whatever that is, that we just bring to it naturally.
Yeah. And my friend is one of my very best friends for a long time. Was an early Trek fan, and he's gay, and he was part of the fandom. They were doing like slash fiction. I don't know if you know what that is, like fan fiction, where they were having like Kirk, Spock were, you know, lovers and things like that. So he's been a part of the queer Star Trek fandom for decades and anticipating this kind of thing. So there's been this real desire and hunger for that kind of representation. So it's just been, he's clued me in on his anecdotal experience of how much it's meant within that community also, you know, which is nice. They've been waiting for it and creating it themselves when they didn't have it.
Aniqua and Mary. I'm like,
oh
okay,
yeah,
we need more gays.
Yes. Yeah, there's fanfics. I think there's fanfic of Giorgio and Michael also. There's
let's not forget the Anson Mount Shazad Latif fiction.
And art too.
Well,
yeah.
I need to see this. I need to see this immediately. Someone please send it to me.
I've seen some art, some Jet Reno art, and I honestly, I can't tell if it's out of love or distaste for me.
Might be a little bit of both. I mean, that's the honor we get, right?
But I'm just like, is this supposed to be, what are you saying by this piece here?
Mm-hmm.
Some really incredible stuff, and some where I'm like, oh, you don't like me, I guess.
Probably. Probably.
Anthony, we're going to keep you on mute.
I will say, as we start to close out, I mean, first of all, thank you so much for genuinely sharing, and I hope that we can create more of these spaces in which we can inspire so many other projects and shows and be a part of. Not this becomes part of the norm, and I hope that not only Outfest, organizations like GLAAD and so many other community partners that we work with, and that I know many of you have worked with, it is creating a village similar to what has happened here in order to make real change. So again, I really, really appreciate just all of you sharing so much and giving a little bit of an under the hood moment of what it's like to work with all of you, and just how enjoyable that can be when we do let go and we do look at ourselves as a family of responsibility, with the responsibility that so many of us have. As we tune out, I was hoping to do a little bit of a mashup exercise before we close on, since so many of you have incredible music backgrounds and performance talent, if any Broadway character that could play your part, who would that be?
Broadway character play the role?
Play the Star Trek, yeah, your discovery. Who would you choose? Who would you cast to play yourselves?
To play like a Broadway character.
Well, I think because I don't have a huge knowledge about Broadway, I would cast Little Orphan Annie as Jet Reno.
And I'm trying to inspire some mashup art, so just bear with me.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that's going to get.
I think Anthony and I would do the boys from Falsetto. That'll make it easy for you. That's what we do.
I was gonna use false. Damn. Oh no. Anybody's West Side Story except.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Yes.
Anybody's. Wait, Blue, I need your help. I don't know enough about Broadway. Can you help me?
I'm gonna use falsettos, but these two took it.
I think I'll give you one. I think Angel Dumas-Chenard should play.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Angel could play all characters. Let's just
that's true.
With gusto. Well, thank you all again for attending this incredible Outfronts panel. We really, really appreciate it from Outfest and for taking your time. And we want everybody to tune in on the next season because it sounds like there's some incredible things happening. And I'm sure there'll be some great sci-fi stuff as well. but I think it's the relationships that have absolutely grabbed our hearts. So thank you, all of you, for attending this panel, and we'll see you on the screen soon.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.